Yeah.
That's usually when people get in trouble, Trinity.
Hey, either way, good for you.
That's funny. All right. So we're live on what right
On
now?
Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube at the moment.
Right now. All right.
Yes, right now, this very second. And as soon as
All
you give me the go ahead, I'm gonna run the intro so we can get this
right.
going.
All right. Hold on. Nobody pay attention.
Yeah. So,
What the what's going on here?
oh my god,
Dang it.
I can't see shimmy.
Exactly.
These
There it
buds are
is.
so small now.
There it is.
You did the whole we hold it way out here like that. No.
I have to. Well, no, I wear the glasses full time now. I don't have to hold anything far out anymore.
Oh boy. Good
All
time.
right. All right. Let's do the show. Let's do the radio show.
All right. Starting with the intro.
All right.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Couch Live. This is Dope and Dharma's edition of the Couch Live here on WOKB 1680 AM on the street. Certified Dope Dr. Louis Delgado here with you. And, of course, that's the Dharma guy, Trinity Phillips. What's up, Trinity?
What's up? We're also on 100.7 FM, by the way.
That's right.
On your, as he would call it, dial.
On your dial. That's right. And, of course, there's other ways people can listen. There's already somebody saying, hey, what are some of the other ways people can watch or listen, Trinity?
Yes, as always, if you want to see our beautiful faces, you can check us out on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook Live. And if you want to just listen at your leisure, you can do so on any major podcasting platform, all under Dope and Dharma.
That's right, Dope and Dharma. And, of course, like the regular people that are here in the Central Florida area, like we said, 1680 AM at WOKB or 100.7 FM. Look, in honor of Recovery Month, Trinity, I figured we have to bring a person with a story for today's show. Because,
and a wonderful beard, by the way.
It's Recovery Month. That's right. For the people that can't see, this guy has a beard like Trinity usually carries, except Trinity's is now more Santa Claus-ish.
Is it, though?
Whitish?
Santa Claus usually longer?
White, though.
Bro, it's gotten so white. Like,
I mean, you have like almost no color in your beard anymore.
I don't even understand what happened.
I think yours is whiter than mine, and you're 10 years younger than me.
It's called marriage with kids, is what it is, man. That's what it is.
Wow.
Teenage daughters did this to me.
Yeah, something
ridiculous,
happened.
Man. It went from black to white like instantly.
Yeah, in the time that I've known you, you went from such a great looking young man to an old Santa Claus, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. I don't know what to say.
You know what's funny though is before I was friends with you, I didn't look like that. So.
It might be me, Trinity. It might not be your wife and kids that age you. It might just be
we spent more time together than they do.
Right. Oh, look at Marissa's got it down. Marissa on Facebook Live. She already chimed in. She said, "I bet Angel hates his beard." That short, and she does. She does.
I don't think she's. This is tolerable for her.
Yeah,
but she prefers it longer.
She didn't want to see his face.
No, I don't want to see my face. So
I actually happen to like your face.
Thank you.
Know, every once in a while when I just want to remember what you look like, I go back to some old pictures of us, and I just
it looks so young in some ways.
Anyway, let's get to it. It's Recovery Month, people, here at WOKB 1680 AM, 100.7 FM, and in honor of that, here on Dope and Dharma, we have a very special guest, Mike. Look, it says your last name. Can I say your last name, Mike? I always just say Mike Durham. All right, it's good. It's a whole different world, right? I mean,
right.
Those of us that choose to out ourselves. I'm going to be outing you today a little bit, Mike. You can out yourself.
Yeah. I mean, working in the industry I work in and I have worked in,
right?
There's no do it. I'm in recovery, so
right on. All right, so people that are listening on the radio here in Central Florida, you're in for a treat. This is a guy named Mike Durham. I know when you saw Mike D, you start thinking, what do you mean, the Beastie Boy? Is it the Beastie Boy? Maybe. I'm not going to confirm or deny that he's a Beastie Boy. He might be a Beastie Boy. We don't know. Right. Yeah. I actually met Mike D. I was watching Run DMC in Red Rocks, Colorado, the Red Rocks Amphitheater, and right next to me was Mike D watching the same concert.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
As soon as I recognized him, he had to leave because they were going to be performing next. So he saw that I recognized him. He said, "Rip." He shook my hand. That was a bad handshake. Sometimes don't shake handshakes of people that you really like a lot. You may not like them anymore. Some people just have that handshake that it sticks in your head, like, Probably should have. Like Whoopi Goldberg. I should have never shook her hand.
Too weak.
I feel like that would be a very masculine handshake.
It was not. You know what I mean? Like it was. I felt like there's some people that work really hard out there that it makes sense, and then some people you like that shouldn't have felt like that. That didn't make sense. But
I don't know if a handshake would make me think of any.
and Mike D's made me think, he was my esthetician. You know what I mean? Like, he's doing my skincare products or something like that. Anyway, so here we are. So let's get started. So Mike Durham, this is Recovery Month, brother, and so had to bring you on. Look, I'll give you a little bit background, Trinity. So we put a guy at this treatment through the Now Matters More Foundation. We put a guy over there at First City Recovery Center in Indiana. First City Recovery Center gave us a scholarship for a person, and at the Now Matters More Foundation, we got a call. I got a call in from a person out of Texas that needed a place to go, needed a treatment center. So of course I thought about First City because I know they have a sister program in Texas. Like this is a business out of Texas. So I called them and they said, you know what, we do have a detox in Texas, but we got a treatment center. And if you want us to scholarship the entire treatment, we'll put them at our facility in Indiana. And that's what I did. And then when we did that, and that was obviously through Frank Severino, a good friend of ours. You know who Frank is. Frank Severino hooked that all up. Told me that James Whittick is one of the owners at this place. I thought that's fantastic. I know James. James won our golf tournament before for the Now Matters More Foundation, by the way. Excellent golfer. I didn't know he actually ran a business. I thought he just golfs for a living. He's really that good. So, yeah. And so they offered us a scholarship. We put a person in treatment. And next thing you know, I get this phone call from Frank saying, does this name, or a text saying, does this name sound familiar? And he sends me the name Mike Durham. I said, yeah, but I didn't want to out Mike. And I'm like, I know the name Mike Durham. What are you asking for? As a counselor, you don't out people. You just don't. And so you're like, I know the name Mike Durham. If it's the one in my head, I guess, you know what I mean? And then, the rest is a further conversation. So Mike, how did you first have that conversation? Maybe you tell the story, because me telling it doesn't sound right.
Well, working in the treatment industry and working with Frank, we, in my job at least, we see certain things when someone gets referred to us.
Right.
So I saw your name and I said, "Oh, Frank, you know Louie?" He said, "Yeah, I know Louie." I said, "Yeah, so do I," from a long time ago. So that's kind of how I said, all right, well, ask Louie if he remembers me. So that's how it kind of went down.
Okay. So you saw it on the sheet that says that I referred the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, and how long have you been working for Frank or with Frank up to that point?
I've worked with Frank twice. So I've been here with Sycamore Behavioral Health that owns the two programs that you just mentioned for about a year and a half now. But at a previous employer, another treatment program I worked for 5 or 6 years ago, he was working there at the same time as me. So known him for a little bit.
Wow. And so how do we know each other, Mike? Are you willing to talk about that?
I'm more than willing to talk about it.
All right, so let's go back a little bit. Let's take us all the way back.
Okay, so grew up in Central Florida. Started to kind of get in a little trouble around high school. Things were fun for a little bit, but then I started getting a little trouble, and I got a DUI my freshman year of college in Tallahassee, and my dad came up and tried to get me to come home. And I said, no, not going to happen. So they let me stay. My parents let me stay up there. They were helping me financially. I'm very surprised they let me stay up there at that point in time. But I came back down, and I had told my dad that I would at least go talk to a counselor. And
the negotiations begin.
Yes, exactly. So I'm at one of my buddy's houses, and my dad had told me, he's like, "Hey, we'll go out to New Smyrna. I'll buy you a new surfboard. We'll go surf."
The bribery and the negotiations begin.
This is the only time my dad's ever pulled anything like this too. So I said, okay, cool. So I'm like 20, 2006, I think. And I get in his truck, and he puts the child box on. He's like, "We're not going to New Smyrna. We're going to talk to a counselor." So I showed up Altamont Springs in Louis' office. My mom was sitting in the waiting room as well when I walked in, and definitely I wasn't the happiest 20-year-old kid at that point in time that day.
All right. So time out for a second. All right. So first of all, for all the people listening, I don't recommend you kidnap your child. Right? That wasn't a recommendation by me.
They needed to kidnap me.
Yeah, but I'm saying I never have said it's okay to do it. Now, some of us have kidnapped people before to take them to certain situations. I think Trinity and I may have even been involved.
Yes.
In some of those mutual kidnappings.
Right there on I Drive.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to a little forcible, influence to go get help. I'm just saying I think there should be some legalities there, some things that should be permissible. But according to today's law, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that I had nothing to do with the kidnapping of Mike Durham to go to treatment and the lies, because, I'm the one that told my kids, about Santa Claus, so they wouldn't later on use that against me and said that I lied to them later on. You know what I mean? So Mike, by the way, did you get the surfboard?
Not that day. No,
not that day. No, definitely not that day. All right. So let's continue. So now this is what I got to walk into, Trinity. This is how I would be set up sometimes.
Good times.
You know what I mean? I'm just sitting in my office, chilling in the air conditioner, expecting to see somebody that maybe wants my help. But no, sometimes they come in and they might be mad at me, Trinity. So, I'm supposed to be going getting a surfboard. He's probably in his board shorts and his T-shirt, and then he's got to meet me.
Good times.
Yeah. All right. So let's continue, Mike.
So I got in there, and from what I recall, let me backtrack a little bit. About a year before, I had gotten in trouble at my senior prom.
Okay.
Almost didn't graduate high school, and my parents took me to a guy who was like an addiction specialist or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I sat down in there, and immediately I was running all over him. 18, 19-year-old kid, and I was nasty with him, which now I feel bad about years later. But but when I got to Louis' office, I think I tried something similar, and Louis gave me a little bit of his background, so I shut my mouth real quick and kind of listened. And then from there, because of the DUI I had some months prior, I had to do court ordered like OP, outpatient, or IOP, or whatever it was at the time, and right. I went through Louis weekly.
Mm-hmm. So how old do you think? 20? You were 20 then?
I just turned 20 when I first met you. Yeah.
Right. And at that time, you had not relocated back to Florida.
Oh no, I was
back to here from Tallahassee. From FSU.
That was the start of it.
That was the start.
Yeah. So I moved back.
You had planned to go back.
I had planned to go back. Yep.
Right.
And so I stayed back in Central Florida for about a year and a half until I, went through whatever I had to do.
Right.
The DUI stuff. And then I did end up going back to school up there, though.
All right. So now fast forward, because here's the thing, Trinity. Not everybody, and you know this, Trinity, not everybody the first time is going to get it. I mean, hell, I didn't get it the first time I heard it. You know what I mean? So it's not something that everybody grasps the first time. I mean, it's great if you're out there and you do, and we'd love you to grab it the first time. I mean, you might save yourself a lot of misery, a lot of problems, and maybe a lot of money, and maybe some relationships. However, we deal with a disease space that, is stubborn in nature. And humans can already be stubborn. Humans already, without disease, without illness, without issues, people can be stubborn. Now you add other stuff on top of it, and then we become extra stubborn. And then, what happens after that, Mike? What happens for the next 10 years?
So, went back.
You're obviously not 20 now.
Right. No, far from it. But I went back up to school. I, kind of pulled myself together, and it's weird because I'm an alcoholic, and I was able to I don't want to say control it because it wasn't controlled,
Hmm.
but I was able to do what I had to do to make like decent grades, stay in school, graduate, and then I came back to Orlando area, and it became kind of like I was still just a college kid, fraternity kid, living that type of lifestyle. Just surfing was my other thing. I always was a surfer, and it was a lot of the people I surrounded myself with. No ill will on them. It's just kind of that culture,
Right.
and I had no real like path or structure. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, and balance between some jobs. Obviously drinking. And at that point in time, it was getting to. I heard someone say in a meeting recently, like when it started in high school, it was fun, and then it became fun with problems. So this was kind of like fun with problems.
Yeah.
And in the end, it got to be all problems, but
Right.
it was still like fun with problems. Just ruining relationships. No real legal stuff, but just scaring my family. Friends were dropping off by the wayside.
Right.
Uh, then I ended up getting a job out in Southern California.
Okay.
And it was,
Did you graduate college?
yeah. I did
Okay. All right. So what did you graduate in? What was the degree in?
political science.
All right. So what was the initial goal? Was it to be an attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of, I think that's what you had told me.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Somewhere along the way, that kind of fell off,
Okay. That happens. We change our minds.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the tools at the time either. I wouldn't have.
You never know. You might have been 100% qualified for that profession, brother.
Very true.
I'm kidding.
Very true. But yeah, so I end up in Southern California, and this point I'm about 28. So there were some years between the time I graduated college and this that were just again living that kind of lifestyle, not really going anywhere.
Right.
I got out to California, and I had decent job, decent
Right.
apartment. I was surfing every day.
Right.
They just my drinking got to be where, and I was never really a daily drinker. It was like 3 to 4 days a week, like binge type drinking. But then it would be like 3 to 4 days of that, and then 3 to 4 days of trying to recover from that, which would be calling out sick from work.
Right.
And I didn't have any of my old, drinking friends that I could rely on to co-sign my stuff or let me pass out on their couch or whatever. I was alone, and that helped me to kind of hit a bottom when I was in California.
Right.
And it just, I reached out to my family and I kind of said, hey, like, I know what's wrong, but I don't really know what's wrong. Like I've never felt this type of way. I was just extremely sad, but I couldn't stay stopped. And I knew I needed help to get there. And it was the first time I had, that gift of desperation,
right?
Real desperation, gift of willingness. And then a family friend reached out to me who ran a treatment program in South Florida. He kind of, he talked to me and he was really related with me. Young guy, he was like my age at the time, but he had been sober 5 or 6 years. So he kind of, gave me a little peek of a way I'd want my life to really be.
Right.
And I went to this treatment program and
well, let's pause there before you go to the treatment program. Let's pause there for a second because picking up that phone, that's major, right? And I think we've all been in a situation where we're struggling with life. I mean, you don't have to be an alcoholic or anything like that to even understand that if you're listening to this and you're not in that. But I think we've all been in this life long enough, if you're listening to this program, where life can be a little painful, could be a little bit hurtful, right? It's part of it, right? So picking up that phone to even mention that is real difficult because a lot of times we project what we're going to hear, like we know what they're going to say, right? So were you expecting an offer of help at that point? Were you asking for that specifically, or were you just venting?
No, I was ready. It had been like when my parents brought me to see you when I was
Okay.
that was all,
Right.
and they, for a long time, oh, you have a problem, you need help.
Right.
And I just, they talk about unmanageability.
Right.
My life was unmanageable, but I didn't care.
Right.
This time it was like, there was something about it. I don't know if it was God or what, but it was, this time I was like, this might be my last chance to actually do something.
So in that time period, from when I first saw you to you reaching out to your family and saying that you're ready,
Mhm.
how many times had they mentioned to you, you think, that you need help?
I would say hundreds.
Exactly. Exactly. And the reason I want to highlight that is because there's two places where you hear persistence works. Number one, when you see a very attractive female with a not so attractive guy, you hear that it was persistence. If the guy, unless he's rich, right? You hear that. You hear it's persistence. Now, I'm not telling you guys to go stalk anybody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just simply saying that sometimes you sticking around and being persistent helps. The other point is this, right? Where you're persistently telling somebody, I love you and I'm here to help you when you're ready. I love you. I'm here to. Now, they may say it all different ways. That's really what they're saying, by the way, people. They may be saying, you're this, you're that. They may be yelling. They may be cutting you off financially. They may be calling you all kinds of names. But what they're really saying, and maybe sometimes not so skillfully, is, I love you and I'm here to help you when you want it. That's really what the statement is. It just comes out many different ways. How did your family's words come out? I'm just curious.
It would, just like you're explaining. I mean, different times they would be very, very loving and compassionate about it, and the other times it was, get out of my house or I'm calling the police.
Right.
That type of thing.
Right.
Usually more of the loving approach. My dad was always more of the loving approach. My mom could be either way. My brother was always the loving approach. But even,
Wait, you notice right there did the sound go out right there, or did you hear that, Trinity? Or is it just on my end?
I didn't hear. Oh, the little whistle.
Did you hear? No, did you hear everything he said? Did you hear everything he said about his mom's approach?
Yeah, he said I could go either way.
Oh, because on my end, I didn't hear that part of it. So maybe, I'm being edited. What? I got something to learn here? I don't know. What was that again then? You said your dad was more compassionate.
My dad was always like a loving type approach.
Right.
He never, but even when I was a little kid, he was like that, like punishing me. Like, he was pretty soft. And then, but my mom could be either way, aunts, uncles, same thing. My mom could be a real, she could be tough about it when she wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then, I have a good friend who his family is basically like my second family, and they were the same way. His dad would get real with me a lot, but it was always out of love. It would just depend on the person. They'd approach it both ways, though.
Right on. All right. So then you reach out, you say, all right. And then you say they immediately connect you with a family friend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So take us forward from there then. And now they convince you to what? Leave California?
Yes. So I was
in this conversation, Trinity. Remember, I was in LA before I came here to Florida.
Yep.
I'm following you, Mike. I remember the phone call, All right, so go ahead.
I was in Redondo Beach, South Los Angeles, South Bay.
Okay.
And I worked in a casino overnight.
Okay.
And it was still like, sometimes I still have my picture in my phone of when I sent like my information to this guy. So it says like Gardena, California, where the casino I worked was, and it says like 1 a.m. So when I think about that, he was talking to me. It was 4 a.m. in Florida.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he just kind of got to the point where I related with him, where he said, well, how do you feel? And I said, I just want to drink, and I don't want to drink, but I can't stop right now. I can't stay stopped, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah. He's like, listen, I'm however much time he had at the time. He's like, I still sometimes want to drink. He's like, it's all right, but I have some tools now. So that kind of clicked with me right there.
Wow.
And next day, I woke up and my flight was already booked for that night out of LAX to come back to Fort Lauderdale.
Now, who did that? Who said that? Mom, dad?
My aunt.
Your aunt. Like immediately start getting the wheels rolling. Listen to everybody. As soon as someone asks for help, you got to go. You got to go. There's no waiting, no delay. You got to just go.
Yeah, you got to strike when the iron's hot, and that's what I in my line of work, what I do is that willingness comes and goes. You got to move on it when it's there. But so I that day before I left, I was like, all right, this is it, So I got pretty loaded, but I can remember I still had alcohol left over, and I remember leaving my apartment, and I put a beer down, and I didn't finish it, which was that was, I don't know if there's any meaning behind that, but I was like, all right, like that's it, and I don't have to finish that, and then I don't know if that means anything, but
it might.
Yeah,
it might. The last pack of cigarettes I did, I still had cigarettes in it. I just crushed the pack with cigarettes in it. So it might be our attempted control, our attempted punching it in the face.
Yep. And I got into get on a flight in LA, the red eye, and I passed out, got sick on the plane, not because I was intoxicated, it's because I was going into an unknown.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be a big change, something living a new way of life, which I had never known. So something about that made me anxious, and I got sick and I passed out on the plane. And then next thing I know, I'm waking up and I'm in Fort Lauderdale, going to a treatment program.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then is that the last time? Was that the beginning of where you're at today?
Yes.
Or was okay.
Yep. You want me to go ahead on that?
Yeah. Continue. So you go into this program. How long is the program?
It was a 30-day PHP.
30-day PHP. All right. So partial hospitalization with residents. So you were able to stay in a safe environment.
Right. Florida model of treatment is what they used to refer to it as.
Okay. So you stayed in housing, and then you would get bused to treatment or something like that.
The housing had our staff,
right.
The staff 24/7.
Okay. Yeah, tell them I'm busy.
All right, sorry about that. I had a
no problem. Right, they're trying to. They're asking for help, and when they're asking for help, you got to answer. I feel like I'm holding back somebody's progress.
No, I got coworkers helping right now.
Perfect. All right, so you go through this program. Now, during the program, at any time while you're in this program, did you feel like this ain't for me? I gotta leave. I gotta bolt.
When I first got there, because I saw a guy that was throwing a fit, wanting to leave against medical advice, and I was like, I didn't know this is what I signed up for. Like it was just like a smack in the face. But then I had to, realize like, hey, I came all this way for myself. Yeah. It doesn't really matter what anyone else does here. Focus on yourself. I had kind of that, I was determined to do what I had to do.
And how old are you at this time?
28.
So at 28 years old, you were able to talk yourself into just calming down and getting focused on you and not getting caught up in the external drama, because it's really easy to get caught up in other people's mess, especially when you're already not feeling good, especially when you're already looking for an excuse to not do it. Because there's a lot of confusion at this point in time. There's a lot of fear, the unknown both ways, uncertainty. Okay. So what held you there was you talked yourself through it, and that kind of helped you stay.
Yeah. And I mean, like at that point, it was kind of like, where am I going to go? Like I had a little bit of money in my bank account. My car's back in California. If I leave here, my family's not at this point, they're done.
Okay. So wait a minute here. Time out then. So that gives a little bit of weight to some of the people that say, it's good to go to treatment outside your area, so that if your loved one or you change your mind or get frustrated, it's not so easy to leave.
Correct.
That it's a process.
Right.
And that, and your not wanting to go through that process sometimes can help you make that decision, that little percentile.
Exactly.
All right, good. I like it. All right,
Yep.
continue.
So first day, and you know, I'm an AA guy. You know, that's where I found my solution. And but the first day I got there, you know, it was like by the time I went through like the whole intake process and all of that stuff, it was, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and I get to housing, and one of the behavioral health care techs hands me the big book. He's like, "Hey, like your roommates are all in group, you know, just take it easy for today. You'll kind of start everything tomorrow. If you want to watch TV, you can do that. But here's your big book." And I said, "Well, I've never opened this thing." So I opened it and read like the first 164
Oh,
on
wow.
my
Just
own.
like they told you.
And it was, I had to go through it with the sponsor, but
All right.
obviously, but everything I read was just clicking.
Yeah.
They wrote this about me. They wrote, that's why I was like, oh, this is me.
Yeah.
This is me. So
Yeah.
that opened me up to like, there's something to this. But then, yeah. And I was blessed the entire time because I got a therapist who was 28 years old. He had 5 or 6 years of sobriety. You know, he was a no BS type of guy, and said it how it was. And I just related with him, you know, and he was awesome. So, that treatment program, it's not around anymore. Unfortunately, they went out of business, but it was a great place.
Right on. All right. So then you graduate this. Now, what's the plan at this point when you get out of this program? What's the plan? Is it staying down in South Florida? Is it coming back to Central Florida? Is it going back to California? What is it?
The plan was, again, I'm trying to still at this point semi call the shots, make my own treatment plan.
Right.
So, you know, a bunch of people that were in this treatment program had been to treatment a bunch of times in South Florida.
Right.
And they're like, "Well, are you staying? Are you going to sober living?" And I was like, "No, I'm going I'm going to go live in New Smyrna Beach." And like I was like, I'll do.
Yeah, because you still had to get the surfboard.
Yeah, that's right.
You still had to go to New Smyrna and get the
Actually
surfboard.
brought my surfboard just for the treatment.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna move to New Smyrna. I'll find a job. I'll go to meetings, and I'm gonna work with Louie. So my mom comes for family day, and they're like, "You're not going home." And I was like, "What do you mean I'm not going home? I'm not going back to Central Florida?" And they're like, "No, you're staying here." I threw a fit, but you know, they made my mom kind of stand her ground, which she did. I moved into sober living. I had a couple options. There was a couple places I toured, sober livings, and there was one guy in particular that picked me up. And he ran a real tight ship, but as soon as he picked me up, little Italian mafia looking guy, as soon as he picked me up, you know, I'm in his Cadillac. He doesn't say anything to me for a couple minutes, and he looks over at me and he's like, "Are you a junkie?" Like, I didn't know how to respond, and I was like, I'm an alcoholic, you know. And he's like, "Listen, I run a tight ship, and I don't put up with anything. If you want to come here, it's the real deal, you know, or you're going to be out. No second chances." And I was like, I kind of like this guy.
See, hey, note to self, people. This is a time. Let me tell you. Let me put this in context of time. First of all, you can't say that these days. You'd have been offended. You would have called your attorney or something, or called your local politician and done something to them. But the second of all, you know, you're in South Florida going to sober living in a time where there was a lot of poison down there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that place was smothered with reentry. The whole plan was to get people with good insurance companies to come right back into treatment. You know, and there were these mills going on down there. First we had the pill mills, then we had the treatment mills, and we were struggling in Florida to find which programs were poison like this, because it was like, man, how do we avoid these things? There's a bunch of them, and they were popping up everywhere. So for you to make it through that time period, that was a heavy time period to make it through. So I applaud you, because that means you made a lot of great decisions at that time, because it was real easy to get caught up.
I was blessed to the treatment center I ended up at. The guy who helped me get in there, solid guy.
Right on.
and then that program, my therapist,
Right,
and
right.
then ending up at this guy's sober living. Like it was probably the best decision I made out of any of those.
I'm hearing a lot of great decisions that you made, and they're just piling up on each other. Okay, so
It was
continue.
it was
So
all the willingness though, and
yeah,
willingness to take suggestions for the first time is what it came down to.
right.
But yeah, so I moved in there. You know, I had to get a job within 2 weeks, and I had to humble myself a little bit, you know, because I had a pretty good job in Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of said, all right, you know what, I'm going to do something here to humble myself, and I went back to serving tables at a beach club, and I did that, and I didn't have my car back, which was paid off, which I owned. So the deal was my parents paid for it to get it shipped back from California, and I could have my car once I finished IOP.
I hear more negotiations.
Yes.
There's more negotiations. See, but they get a little healthier.
Yes.
Right? They're healthier. You don't get it yet.
Yep. But it built character. It made me humble myself, because I walked every day. I think it was like 2.5, 3 miles from the sober living to work, you know, and that like made me appreciate having a car. Simple stuff.
I bet.
Yeah.
Simple stuff. But yeah, so 6 months goes by or so, and then the owner of the sober living asked me if I wanted to, you know, be like the live-in manager. Yeah, of course I said yeah, you know. And that was kind of my first time. I don't want to say working in treatment, because it wasn't treatment, but
right.
Kind of was, you know. It was
well, it's through everybody's treatment process. You're
yes.
working within the process.
Yeah, and
there's a whole process of getting clean and sober, man, and you were working as a piece of that process.
Yes, working a program the entire time. Sponsor, working, you know, 12 steps, and it 6 months, and then I get to be another 6 months. So I'm in sober living about a year. Right. I'm already sponsoring other guys, having sponsees, and so then I had a friend that worked for a treatment program doing, you know, admissions and marketing. And he kind of said, I think you might be good at this. And then once I got that job, I moved out to an apartment with one of my sober buddies. And that was kind of the beginning of the new life, I guess you'd say.
Right. All right. So now let's fast forward to where you're at now. Here you are. How many years later?
10
years. As of what date?
August 27th. Thank you.
Wow. You're at here's what's weird, Mike. That didn't click until right now. The other day, I was in Winter Park celebrating my wife's birthday. And we're at this chocolate place, right? I really didn't even want to be there, you know, because, you know, I'm like, my wife, I'm starving, and my wife wants to start at the chocolate place. She's not a chocolate eater. I'm not a chocolate eater, you know. She probably wanted to be there for the wine. But I'm sitting there, and I'm like, why am I in this? I want like food, and everything food-wise was chocolate. And there's this woman like sitting over there, and she's just staring at me. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. But then she goes, is your name Louis Delgado? And I was like, okay, yeah. And she just started bawling. She started crying. Fast forward, I'm not going to go into the story or anything, but Dharma guy, you know her too. She went to our program. She's celebrating 10 years this month.
Right on.
And she says how awkward that the week before celebrating 10 years, she saw. And now you said 10 years. That's a trip. Both of you are something to this 10 years and whoever got sober 10 years ago. I'm listening for messages. I'm not sure what the message is, but I'm listening. That is really intense, though, that you just said that. It didn't click until you just said that you celebrated August 28th. That's fantastic, brother. That's awesome. So now what does life look like for you? Because here's the thing that some people hear when you first get, sober is that you're going to suffer the rest of your life. That it's always going to be miserable. You're going to have to, you know, it's always going to be a chore. And I really hated that. I don't know about you, but I really hated the fact that they made it sound so horrible. And I wanted to hear like a lot more of the hope, great part. They would embed it in there, but the things that they were telling me to be hopeful about and that I would love didn't sound attractive to who I was at the time.
Right.
All that sounded real corny and nasty and dirty. I was looking at the car they drove. I was looking at the way they were dressed. I was looking at the relationship, and I was like, "Hey, nah, I don't want anything. You guys aren't selling me very well." But I stuck in it anyway. So where you're at right now,
Mm-hmm.
what about what you have right now or how you feel right now was your goal, and how much of it is different than your goal, but you appreciate and love it anyway?
Well, I would say I still have major goals,
Right.
you know.
Well, up to this point.
I mean, if I can look, the best way I like to explain it is if I can look back when I was a kid, I wasn't ever being like, hey, I want to be a millionaire. You know, I just wanted to have like a stable family life,
Right.
wife, kids, you know, pay my bills, go on vacations, happy life.
Okay.
And that's really what I got. Whereas before, you know, that probably wasn't in the cards for me with the way I was living my life.
Right.
But what you just said is very accurate, because when I was 20 years old, the first time I ever met you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I heard it, but it wasn't too cool for me. The way, you know, I had just come off a year of my first year of college,
Right.
living frat kid life.
Right on.
So recovery, it's tough for young people. But what I can say is it's you know, it's not hard, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's hard at the beginning.
Yeah.
But if you keep doing the next right thing, it gets easier. You know.
That's a good way to say it. I mean, because again, it was sold to me like, and it was a different time, you know. You're talking 1988, 89, 90, 91. In those early years, I mean, people were brutal the way they would talk to you and stuff like that. But luckily the whole world was brutal to us. So like that was actually the kind of the brutal. You know what I mean? But the fact that it sounded like it was going to be such a chore was not attractive to me. And the way I kind of look at it now is like, everything that I have right now, I didn't know that I wanted it as much as I have it now. I didn't want what I have right now, other than the peace. But if
Yes.
you would have explained the surroundings that I have right now and said that's what's going to give me that peace, I wouldn't have believed you. I thought it was a different surroundings that would give me that sense of peace. The surroundings right now that give me that sense of peace, I didn't even know could feel like this. And I didn't know this feeling was what I was searching for.
Yeah, and that's one thing I figured out pretty early on, and it continues, you know, being in recovery.
Right on.
That before I got sober, I never had peace of mind. You know, there was always something wrong. Even if there wasn't, I always felt like the other shoe was about to drop, you know.
Right on.
Something was going to happen always. I was always on edge. But now I have peace of mind. You know, things in life happen, but you know, I have tools to deal with them.
Relationship with family now is what?
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
They got their son back.
That's right.
And that's what they want. And there's a lot of people listening right now. That's all they want is they want their son back. They look at their child right now and they don't recognize them. They're like, the way you're talking, the way you look, the way you sound, the things that you're saying. I mean, that's not who you are. And it's hard for us to even get that message. I remember hearing that message and not understanding, because I was like, no, you just don't know me. This is who I really am. You don't know me. You know? Anyway, so fast forward. What's the future goal? Where do you want to go from here, Mike? Because you're a young man still. Look at you, man. How old are you now?
I'm 38. I'm getting a little old. I'm looking my age.
Mike, 38. I'm sitting over here turning 55 this year, brother. So, or this next month. So, it's a difference.
Well, my goal, my main goal right now, and I've been working at it. I'm still jumping through some hoops, but I want to fly for the airlines eventually. But because of my background, I have to do a monitoring program before the FAA will give me my medical clearance to kind of move forward. So I can fly airplanes. I've been flying for a while now. I can fly airplanes, but I have to be with an instructor.
Yeah.
So for me to keep moving forward, I have to have my medical. So that's
Okay.
what I'm doing right now. But there's certain things, from my past that, so they're at 8.5 years
Yeah.
sober. I had to start a monitoring program, which has been,
Yeah.
that's humbled me too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
needed
Oh,
it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Always learning.
No, that's fantastic. If that's your because if you want your goal, I mean, you gotta be willing to do whatever they ask of you to do. That's part of the growth, right? That's part of the recovery. That's what you prepared for.
Right.
When you sat there and read those pages, when you sat there and listened to that person that was annoying as hell across the room saying the same story for the 26th time, and you had to act like it was the first time you ever heard it, that's what you were preparing for. This was the patience. This was the tolerance. This was the appreciation. This was the gratitude. This was the being present in the moment.
Yes.
This is what you practiced for.
Yeah. And that's, my dad's a private pilot, and he introduced me to aviation. So a part of repairing that relationship with my dad was getting into that, and, flying or other things that I would have never done if I would have never gotten sober, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Lots of stuff, man. Like my life's a lot better,
So note to self, don't talk smack to him, Dharma guy, because they do these little things on you. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, you're like, all right, let me go. Mike, it's been awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Meeting you again. Now, mind you, Trinity, I didn't want to talk to him until today's show. I talked to him for briefly, and I said, "Don't tell me anything. I didn't want to ask him any questions. I said, "Don't tell me anything. I want to just do it all on the air if you're willing to do it. I just want to have an honest ear for you, and I want to hear it loud." Now, from here, though, Mike, I want to have more future conversations with you. I look forward to supporting you throughout your life in any way that I can, emotionally, in any way that I can, as a friend, as a cheer. I'm here for you, man. I think that's beautiful, and man, I feel 100% honored that you allowed yourself to let me know where you're at and where you've been. People like me need that. We need to know that some people are okay, because all too often we hear about the ones that don't make it and aren't okay, and it's those ones that are okay which says, okay, just keep doing it then. Keep reaching your hand out, keep loving the next person. You never know who's going to get it. You never know, what they need. Just keep giving. And so thank you so very much, because I think you've done more for me and Trinity today than we could ever have done for you. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You sound like my first sponsor. Saying that, but thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you very much. Trinity, final words, brother.
I think, first of all, like, good on you for putting it out there and not being anonymous. From a normie's perspective, it's hard sometimes because all you do here is the bad ones. So to have more people coming out and talking about how they've been successful, I don't think people realize how helpful that is. And then the second thing I think you touched on that I don't think it's said enough, and we've all felt it, even for those of us who don't struggle with addiction. In various other areas, we felt it. We just didn't know what word to put to it, and that's peace. Like I think that people seriously underestimate how much that's what we're looking for, is peace. So good on you for getting it, acknowledging it, and talking about it, man. Good for you.
Right.
Thank you.
Michael, any last words from you?
If I could get one message across, if there's just one person out there that heard this, that, it clicks with them and gives them a little bit of willingness to take some suggestions, that's what I care about.
Right on. What's the phone number to the program so they can call if they need help from First City or one of your other sister programs? Do you have the phone number or any website that you want to give?
We have a lot of different phone numbers. I'll give you one. I got to look it up because we have so many.
Or the website. That's fine.
Yeah, I can give the number real quick.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
All right. So 877 595 3330.
Okay, one more time.
877 595
Mm-hmm.
3330. That's our one of our mini admissions lines for First City Recovery Center.
Perfect. Trinity, if you could put that
Sure
on
did.
the perfect on the description, that way, you know, anybody that watches this video, if not today, some other day, because sometimes that's the way it works, man. They hear it one day, listen another day. It's, you know, hear me now and listen later. I don't care. Just
And
as
one
long
thing
as
I want to share real quick, because I
sure.
know we got to get going. You know, one thing I'll say about this organization compared to other places I've worked is that if we can't necessarily help you for any whatever reason, we will help to find you help. You know, that's what we do, is help whoever reaches out. We do our very best to help them find help.
Right on, right on. All right, brother, man. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you very much, Dharma guy. Hey, from all of us here, hopefully, look, the message is really clear. This is Recovery Month, and although we know we're losing a lot of people to fentanyl poisoning and other things, remember, alcohol is still number one out there. It really is. I know we hear a lot about opiates. We hear a lot about fentanyl. Alcohol is still the number one reason people go to the emergency room. Alcohol is still the number one poison within our system. And look, I'm not saying ban it, because I don't care if you drink. I mean, drinking should be allowed to be used, but some people can't drink for whatever reason. They just can't or shouldn't drink. If you had a peanut allergy, I'm not going to force you to say, hey, you know what, you should be able to handle your peanuts. You have a peanut allergy. That's just the way it is. And to some people, that's what alcohol is to them. And we just need to respect that, and we need to acknowledge that, and be out there ready to act when people ask for help. And I think that's what I heard in you, Mike, more than anything, is number one, you had the willingness, but number two, that your support system was willing to be there for you when you had that willingness, even if it was not the first time. It could have been the second or fifth or 20th time. It doesn't matter. They were there for you when you needed it, and that's what we got to be for other people. Anyway, from all of us here at Dope and Dharma and the Couch Live edition of Dope and Dharma, thank you to the good folks at WOKB 1680 AM, 100.7 FM. Adios, amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.
Bye.